go. Alright, sorry. Welcome to Banter Blitz with Pascal Charbonneau. I think my microphone was not on for a second. Maybe now it's going to be okay, hopefully. Let me know if there's a problem. So we are getting started. Hopefully the sound should be here now. I apologize about my first few seconds. Again, I was supposed to be joined today by Ayelen, but she couldn't make it. She was feeling not well at all. Some people challenged me early. I'm going to accept those challenges first. We have a sort of a Queen's Gambit accepted with a little bit. Bishop e7 is maybe not the most precise because sometimes when black plays c5, I could take on c5, and if he takes back with the bishop, he's going to have wasted a tempo. I am following the chat, so feel free to hit me up, bother me, ask some questions. You know, if Ayelen had been feeling better, we would have done some blindfold games and things like that. But unfortunately, since it's just me, I have to watch for his bishop coming to a6 here, and you know, potentially you know, a b4 followed by bishop a6, or maybe a4 followed by bishop a6. It doesn't, you know, I have bishop c4 on these b4 moves, so I have a sort of a defense. But let's see. Maybe I just play. I probably have to move the rook. It seems to make the most sense to move the rook. I may not have played this in the most precise way, but I think this is still a good, you know, shouldn't be a good setup for black. A lot of weaknesses, but I do have to watch for some tactical tricks. Alright, so he's playing bishop a6. Obviously, he's threatening the move b4, which is a little bit tricky. We've got to be a little careful here. I may have to move this queen, which is a little bit odd. I wonder. This is kind of a strange, sort of a strange way that he's played, but actually it sort of worked out for him. Not too bad. I think that white is still to be preferred, but not by too much. And of course the queen on e1 is a little bit awkward, but I had to get the queen out of this diagonal. Alright, so he goes knight e4. I'm tempted to play knight e5. It looks like a good square. I may be able to play f3, kick him out at some point in the near future, like right now, probably. This helps me kind of build the center. I need to find a way to develop this bishop, but I have good squares now. c5 is a little weak, so I'm starting to like my position. Of course, I have to play a little bit faster. I've been doing a lot of talking, not as much playing. I think I want to keep knights in this position. Just seems like trading pieces. You know, generally, in a very, very general sense, you don't want to trade pieces when you have more space. So I won't. And now I'm going to pick up the tempo a little bit. Again, feel free to hit me up in the chat. I'm following the chat today with hawk eyes. And I'm going to try to keep this fun. I know that it would have been more fun with Ayelen on as well. But since you got just me, we'll just have to make the best of it. So I think now his pawn on c6 is a little bit weak. So I'm playing bishop b3 so that if he takes on a4, so now the pawn hangs. He could have taken bishop takes, but then the pawn was hanging anyway, you know, attacked by two pieces. So now, of course, pleasant position for white. I'm up a pawn as well as, you know, I have a pretty nice center. So I'm just going to retreat. So now it should be just sort of a matter of playing good technique. I probably want, well, if he goes knight d7, I may play d5. This move, I still have d5. What I like about d5 is that, well, I'm trying to open up the position. So this, now things are falling apart for him. But the idea was to kind of open up the position for the bishops. Hi, Kramnik student. You're saying black is playing aimlessly. Well, I think he started maybe playing fast instead of well, which is something that is tempting to do, especially as I had taken too much time. But yeah, the opening with the quick c6, b5, a5 actually confused me a little bit, and I thought maybe his position was not bad. Of course, now here is completely losing. So I think Kramnik student that challenged me, I may accept his challenge next. Alright, so we're gonna, well, let's see. I guess I'll play bishop d5. The bishop is a good square here. This rook is a little bit in trouble. I guess I will try to bring my knight, try to trade more pieces. Thanks for joining me today on this nice winter day. In Florida, it doesn't feel like winter almost ever. This is my first Florida winter. and it is something completely different to what I'm used to, of course. Growing up, I grew up, you probably know that, but I grew up in Canada, where, of course, winters were harsh. Kramnik student, I guess I've streamed a couple times. I've done these after shows during Weikanze, and but you're going to be seeing a lot of me, so hopefully you get used to it. I had done also, what else did I do? I did a few other things. But I guess it might be my second official banter. I also did one when I was in the Hamburg studios at during the first round of Weikanze. I did do I should have played Rook C8 check. I did do a couple of things with Jan and Peter Zvidler. So now I can actually play Knight F8, Knight G6, and Rook H8 mate. So we finish with a little bit of with a cute little mate in the corner. I'm still kind of getting used to the talking while playing. I actually used to do this a very long time ago. So alright, so I have a challenge here from Kramnik student who is talking to me and is a premium member. If you're a premium member, challenge me, GM Pacman. I will try to accept as many as possible and as quickly as possible. Hello, Mick Tal. That's a name that I'm fond of. I was a big fan of Michael Tal. One of my favorite chess books actually is My Life in Games by Michael Tal. He talks a lot about Mikhail Tal. He talks about his life and his games. You guessed it. But it's a good sort of a good classic book. I like to play these hybrid Najdorf Dragon lines. They're a little bit less theoretical. I am, as everyone knows, an old grandmaster who hasn't played in a tournament game in years. So, of course, I prefer to avoid the razor sharp theory that some people play. So he wants to play Bishop H6. I mean, I don't have to play Rook E8, but just for blitz games, I like to keep the bishop. So now I think I actually like playing E5 after F4 because the E pawn, especially with my rook already on E8, I think now I can just take. And now the question is, do I want to take on E4, which leads to sort of a simplification of the position because you're going to take on D6. Maybe it's a little too much. The problem is if I play Knight E5, you may have Bishop G5, which maybe is a little bit annoying. Let's see. And taking on E4 is not necessarily incredibly safe either. I think I'm going to play Knight E5 and just see what happens. So if he plays Bishop G5, I have a few ways of handling this. At some point, I can give a check on B6. You know, if the pressure gets to be too much on the knight. But I would probably just start with Bishop E6. There's also the possibility of bringing the knight back to D7. And because I always have a check on B6, I have the impression that pin may be okay. But of course, it's a bit of a. All right, so he makes this move. That's not a bad move either. So he's threatening the pawn, of course, on D6. I may be able to. Knight G4 is possible, like maybe Knight F to G4. Then he takes on D6 though. It's a little bit annoying to defend this pawn. What is the best way to defend this pawn? I don't think I played this in the most precise way with my this Rook E8 move. Maybe was not so great. So now, what is the way to survive this? I think I'm just going to sacrifice the pawn, play Bishop E6. Although it's not necessarily the best pawn sacrifice I've ever seen. Because if I play Bishop F8, he's got Bishop G5, and now that pin in that position is quite annoying. Kind of a tough position for me here. So I think I'll give him a check. The idea is just I'm trying to sacrifice a pawn in a few different ways here. He's got bishop b3, and then I can play just queen c7. He'll take, bishop e6, and I thought this was maybe my best chance of sacrificing a pawn. I can also play with knight g4 at some point. I mean, he's certainly going to be better, but it's maybe not that bad. Bonjour, salut Serge. I'm going to say a few words in French. Serge Archambault, an old friend, someone who's known me for maybe 30 years maybe is too much. For all those wondering, I'm 36. So I said I'm an old grandmaster. That's not so much in age as much as in how long I haven't played chess for. I actually kind of like my position here in terms of being down a pawn. I mean, I don't like it. I don't like it, but I don't dislike it that much. I feel like White has a little bit of White's going to have some work to do to convert. I probably could have played another move here. I probably could have played. Of course, he's not going to take on c4. I'm only pre-moving in the unlikely case that he does. All right, so here, not totally. Still, of course, not totally happy, but knight d7 seems to make sense. I may want to play bishop f8. We'll see. Alright, so now he's threatening to take on d7 and get two pieces. So I got to do something about that, and I think I'm just going to play knight c5. Seems like the most logical move. At some point I can take on f3, but I didn't think it was too good now. But now I'm kind of threatening to play knight f3, gf, knight takes a4, or some combination of those moves. And if he plays b3, I can probably take on e2, and somehow I should win a pawn back. Maybe. If he takes on c5, I'm happy to kind of swap that. So now, okay, b3 he did play. So the question is, well, I think I got to take this. Maybe it's time for an exciting move like f5. The idea is to play knight takes f3, pawn takes, and rook takes e3. And I'm starting to feel like I may have. So now I'm winning a piece, and I think I'm surviving. He's not totally lost here, but well, now he is. So this move, I can just take on d2, take on f5, and now this is just a lost endgame. But certainly was not an easy game here. And I still have to make sure that I win before my flag falls. But I think in this case I should be able to do that. I do have quite a bit of time, so alright, not an easy game. Chulu says, ça va mon ami? Oui, ça va. Premier Banter Blitz de Pascal. En fait, c'est pas mon premier. It's not my first one. It is maybe my second or third. One time I did it sort of unofficially with Jan. Okay, I'm going to play a 2700 player here, Sergei Rachmaninov. I think is a French guy, actually, because I think I saw him in the French chat another day. A lot of people named Serge, Sergei. Alright, we'll play the English, not the opening that I played when I was a kid. Actually, I'll play e4 in the other games in this banter. I don't know why I'm playing the English. But of course, playing a little less frequently, I gravitate a little bit more to simple openings, and then I do, however, really like complicated positions. I just try to avoid the complications at the beginning. This is sort of a variation that's been played quite a bit. It's interesting. It's sort of a new Benoni kind of structure. So he can play e5, then after rook e1 he's got to defend the pawn. So it's a little bit, he wastes a little bit of time to defend the pawn. And so here I think I can play knight a3. I mean, there's a few ways to play this position, but I think knight a3 is okay. I may want to play for c5 at some point. So now, like, c5 is interesting here, followed by either knight c4 or just by taking on e5. I think that's what I'll do. I'm not sure if it's the most accurate way to play or not, but I can either take on e5 or knight c4, but I think I would play knight c4 since he has to defend that pawn. Although he does get a square for his knight on d5, so it's not entirely clear if this is, you know, an incredible plan for me. So now I think I'll play just for b4. He can get his knight, you know, to d5, but even if it comes to c3, I think I'm going to just be able to kind of circle it, like play knight d5, I play b4, he goes knight c3, queen b3. Yeah, Michael Tal is saying that white was better in that game. I do not doubt it. Plus 1.65 seems fair. He was up a pawn, and maybe he had the compensation for it. So yeah, that sounds about right. All right, so I think I'll play rook c1. Indirectly defends this pawn if he tries to attack it with the queen. Oh, he has various ways of trying to win a pawn, like, you know, playing. This I'll play h3. If the bishop, so now I get the bishop pair, and I think that's not an unreasonable way for him to play, but I'm fairly happy here. He can try, you know, to go after the pawn with knight d7, and then I have a decision to make, you know, sort of basically how to sacrifice it, because I think, you know, the idea is not to keep this pawn forever. I'm probably just going to play b4, because at the end I can play bishop b7. And this kind of opens things up for the bishop. I think that makes sense. So far I've actually played quickly in this game, which is amazing because I haven't generally been playing quickly in these games. Alright, so knight takes b4 seems like it's almost forced, right? Because if he doesn't take it, then, you know, white, I think, is going to be clearly better if I can play, you know, queen b3 next. So we get kind of a mess now. So I was thinking I would just take on b7 on this move, but there are quite a few possibilities. I guess I could try queen b3, but queen b3 goes knight a6. Then if I take on b7, he can either sacrifice. I'll take on b7. I'll do the play first, think later. So he moves his rook. And then I probably try to keep the pawn by playing c6. He goes knight c5 maybe, and then I have ideas like knight takes e5. Frankly it's a quite complicated position. I also have like knight d6 ideas sometimes, but of course not after I play c6. So what does the chat think about all of this? I'm not sure. This particular position is sort of, you know, the computer. I bet the computer finds a decent way for black to play here, but that is just my hunch. So I was looking at my main line was sort of rook b8, c6, and then some move like knight c5. Now I've been wondering whether I can take on e5, but he may have take on b7. Man, this position is getting. It is just complicated. What if I play? I also have the idea to play bishop. Well, bishop a3. So I have to be careful here because he's threatening the pawn on d3, which is not a pawn that I particularly want to see disappear from the board, of course. So knight e5, if he goes knight to b7, finding that a little bit annoying to deal with. On the other hand, what choice do I have? I'll try it. Let's see what happens. I have actually quite a few moves. Like there's knight f7. There's a variation of ways to sort of try to keep things murky. Maybe sacrifice something or not too much. Knight f7, king f7. You know, the idea is rook e1, queen e1, and this knight hangs, which, you know, it just continues to be really complicated. I'm gonna do this. I'm not gonna think for too long because I feel like I gotta keep moving. In some of these positions, I'm just sort of trying to get compensation for the piece, but I think I actually do for the most part. So I'm not totally sure. I mean, in some positions I may have 3 pawns for a piece. He's also running a little bit low on time. King f7 might be a better way to play. Then I go rook e8. and then I either take on b7 or play some check, take on b4. I don't know. It's a messy, just a very messy position. Well, this one I actually, this one I thought would be okay for me. Still a complete mess though. So queen e6. I was considering queen e6. Queen e6 seems to be the move, but he does have some queen moves here like this one. And now what is this? So if I play knight h6, let's try knight h6. So if he goes king f8, then I can simply man, this is just a complicated position, but I do have some kind of neat resources, I think. But we'll see. We'll see. So this move, now I thought I could play bishop a3. Well, I'm going to play bishop a3. I do have at some point queen g8. Man, this is just a very complicated game. So he thinks that he can get away with this. It's interesting. So he's got queen f2 in some situations here, which is a little bit annoying. Wow. Well, maybe he played well. I don't know. I think I have to trade queens. Play rook d1. Now I want to play knight f5 or rook takes d4. Still a complete mess of a position. So now I gotta play for this sort of not entirely clear as great, but I do have some sort of tricks with c7 and knight e6 check. I think I'm actually maybe doing okay again here. So this move. Now I think I'll just play f4. Again, a mess. So this knight d4. Now I have some knight e6 ideas. Ah, he has this. I didn't see that. It's a good thing he doesn't have much time. So I think he's actually winning here. Well, or actually now he's not. Now it's just, and now we got a rook again. What a crazy game. And finally, I'm a little better. This move, really. That's actually a good move. I think he manages to survive, but I have to win on time here, right? I mean, that's just not right. But crazy game. I got a little bit lucky. Well, that was a fun game. I definitely did not play my very best in this game. All right, let's see who has challenged me here. I'm going to play against Chessy here. Chessy. Well, that was complicated. I said I was going to play e4. Why did I go knight f3? It's one of these sort of blitz things. Yeah, that's right. You know, Kramnik student says I played like another Canadian resident, Lafong. Lafong is someone I've known since I was literally 5 years old. So maybe we spent some time playing blitz. He's definitely flagged me before I flagged him. You know, when we were somewhere between 5 and 10 years old. So. Again, I recommend that you buy these famous legend mugs. I've been drinking my coffee out of it for a long time. Serge, I think you were probably winning also. It was very, very complicated, and you found a lot of resources. I think I found some interesting resources. It was very hard to assess, to be honest. But I'm pretty sure you were winning at some point. Alright, so here we have position. I'm actually happy to trade queens here. In these positions, you know, the bishop on g2 is very effective. So usually white is happy when we just have a simple queen trade. The development, you know, I'm at least I'm at least as close to completing development as he is. And I don't mind keeping the queens on either. In fact, I'll just play knight c3 and I'll keep them on for a few moves. It's hard for him to develop his mainly the bishop on c8, right? So it's hard to develop because of the pressure. So he can go knight c6, but so even if he goes a6, which he does here, so now I have a couple of ideas. I mean, again, this is a very typical position. I think queen b3 is logical. I'm going to play queen b3. There might be actually better moves, but for a blitz game especially, it's more fun to keep the queens on. But now my idea is mostly to harass his pieces with rook d1, maybe bishop f4. And again, not super easy to develop. He can play knight c6. It's probably the best move here. And then, I don't know if I play, maybe I should have played another move just because this knight on c6 is actually quite good. If rook d1, he has knight d4. So maybe my move order was not the most precise. So here, yeah, because rook d1, knight d4 is a little bit annoying, so I'll just play e3. This is fine, but obviously it's not really. Now he's actually okay. He can play queen c7 and he's fine. So definitely a bad move order on my part. This queen b3 was silly. I was just trying to be a little bit too cute. Maybe knight a3 was possible. No, I'm just gonna play simply because I've already been too cute in this game. Now my idea is I'm threatening knight e4. The queen moves. I take on c5. Queen takes c5. Bishop b4 takes f8. I think here it still is more pleasant for white, but it's not nothing that special either. Because he is just one move away from completing development. Maybe I just go queen c2. I kind of would like to trade queens in some cases, but I have to make sure it's not in a position where he's just developing. Here, I actually should have. I don't know why I'm playing strangely in this game. Now I'll play knight a4, and I'll try to go maybe I have some. The bishop on g2, thankfully, is still sort of a really good piece. Maybe if he moves to e7, I may be able to play something like bishop a5. Bishop a5 intending, bishop d6. Also interesting is just e4, but e4 he can maybe get his bishop out. So I think I like this, intending either bishop b6 or knight to b6. So bishop d7 is probably right, yeah. So bishop b7. Then I think I'll go for trying to get the bishop pair. Knight b6 makes sense. I still like white's chances, but I also feel like I did not play this very well, to be honest. So now he's got sort of a problem. Rook b8 was probably not. I think he may have had to play something like rook d8, even though that looks. Rook d8, knight c4 was not fun either, actually. So maybe the position was starting to be bad there. Here it looks to me like he's got a problem. He may have knight d5 is maybe the move that holds on to material for the longest, but at the very least it loses a pawn, maybe more. I can maybe take with the bishop, so that then actually no, knight d5 is just knight d7. Sorry about that. No, here he's just maybe losing a piece. I don't see a good move here. Alright, so now I take bishop a4 doesn't really do too much because I can simply protect it. Yeah, so I can just go queen c7 or queen d2. I also could play knight a4, rook d6, bishop b4, which trades more pieces. But I think it's hard not to just defend the rook. So that's what I'll do. Thank you, Kramnik student. I'm glad you're liking the explanations. My philosophy with doing these banter blitzes is that I should talk as much as possible. So I really try to just keep on talking. It's especially easy when I'm playing 5-minute games. It's a little bit trickier with the 3-minute ones. but I also want to play 3-minute ones. So in fact, I will play a 3-minute game next. Let's see here. All right, who has challenged me? There's some that are from way further back. All right, Chess Cadet, a 3-minute game. We'll see how I do with the chatting in a 3-minute game. Yeah, well, if you want to talk about things other than chess, Cthulhu, by the way, or CT Hulu, I don't know what your name means. If you just ask questions about other things than chess, then I can certainly talk about other things than chess. In fact, I spent most of my career working not in chess at all, and this is my return to chess at the old age of 36. And so yeah, I'm certainly happy to talk about other things. But Jan knows a lot of movie trivia. He might have me beat. Well, my opponent here doesn't seem to be. I'm just going to abort this game because he's taking too long and go back to our challenges here. I'm going to take another of the 3-minute challenges because I said I would play a 3-minute game so that it's a little faster. So we have Zhao, who's been very active in the chat. Zhao 2006. I'm going to try that one. And again, I'm going to try to keep talking. And I'm kidding. 36 is not that old. What is funny is just that I have not really played any serious chess red ribbon until I was since I was about 22, and so it feels like a large portion of my life I have not played chess. But then again, there is still time to play, and here I am today. So okay, interesting move order here with a4. I guess in some cases, he has a5, so I'll just play b6, which is not forced. A4 is not the end of the world. A4, a5 is not necessarily the end of the world, but it does sort of force black to weaken their pawn structure at some point. Always sort of a question to me whether I should play e5 sometimes, and then you get more into kind of a Ruy Lopez structure, but with the bishop on c4, it doesn't seem as tempting. So now e5, I thought I had sort of prevented it because I can take on f3 and then take on e5. It doesn't end the game by any means, but it looks like a pawn. Otherwise, pawn takes e5 is probably just about equal in that kind of structure. But I'll play this, and then I'll take with the pawn on e5. I could also take maybe with another piece, but with the knight. But then there was some queen c6 check. So I'll play this. It's not impossible that he has some compensation here for the pawn, but I don't think he can ever be really more than equal, because even if he does win that pawn back, I think this position is going to be okay. Yeah, a lot of people, we all sometimes make career choices, and it's so I see a lot of people in the chat here have also taken paths that maybe took them away from chess, but I think chess is a little bit like of a magnet. It kind of pulls you back in after a while. I'm going to try a little knight escapade here. My goal is to go to d6, f5, and maybe take his bishop. I think that makes sense. It's not easy for him to kind of go after. He can't take on e5 here because c4 hangs in the end. And I like this maneuver because once my knight is on f5, I can sort of take this bishop whenever I want, but also I can just wait. And in some cases, maybe knight d4 is a little bit irritating. And I may just play a move like rook e8 next so that I can play f6, and then my pawn is like cement on e5. So, I think he doesn't have enough compensation for a pawn here. You may not have any compensation, but it's not like it's completely winning for black. I still gotta find a way to actually win pieces and pawns and other things. So he's maybe bringing his knight to e3. All right, so this is fine. I think I may bring my rook now to target this pawn. All right, so knight e3. I think I'd rather take his bishop. And so now let's see. So I think f6 to again free my knight. He's getting his knight to a nice square on e4, but all right, this move. Maybe that move's a little bit annoying. I think I'll play rook a8 just because I don't really, and maybe now I'll play like knight b8, knight c6. I'm doing all these weird knight maneuvers in this game. I don't know if they're any good. This still seems okay. Serge is also Canadian. Well, that is good to know. I did not know, but that is good to know. I'm always happy to meet other fellow Canadians. All right, he's got a threat. Maybe I did not need to let that knight come in, but you know, he's playing fast, and I'm going to try to play fast too. All right, so now I kind of like the idea of playing rook c8 to stop him from playing d4. All right, he goes there. Now I wonder, at some moment I'm going to have a move like a5, but here a5, bishop b5 is not entirely clear, although actually that's not that bad. I can just play rook c7 there. I like a5, you know. You only live once. What is he going to do now? He can just go back to c2, I guess. So this move, well, now I'm going to take his pawn. I'm hoping, I keep thinking I'm about to get forked somewhere, but so far I have not seen any working forks for him. I guess knight d5, you know, trying to trade some pieces. If he plays d4, I can take on b3 and then take on a4. This move, so that doesn't bother me too much. I think I'll start with this capture, then I'll probably take that one. So I'm reducing material and still up pawns. So okay, so knight c5, now he runs into a deadly pin. Alright, so I've managed to talk my way through a 3-minute game without any obvious blunders. There may have been blunders. Alright. This should be beyond salvable for him. Salvageable. Salvable is not a word. Alright, good game. Zhao. That was a... Now we'll play, let's see, let's play a 5-minute game, which gives me a little bit, it's a little bit easier to oh, I thought I accepted a 5-minute game, but it's actually a 3-minute game. No worries. At first I thought my opponent was rated 2690. He's actually 690, but that doesn't mean that I shouldn't take him seriously. I'm playing the King's Indian, another love of mine when I was much younger. This has transposed more into like a modern kind of setup. So far he's playing very well. I could play e5, but I don't want to allow him to trade queens, which is a little bit boring. I like including a4, a5 for black actually, because the knight sometimes comes to c5 with decent effect. This is totally fine though, he's played very well. He's got no problem here. He's got to decide what to do with his bishop on c1. g4 is, you know, is a sort of standard plan actually with this setup with knight e2, but you always have to be a little bit careful. Someone here is asking what are the Chess24 plans for the candidates. So we actually have quite a lot planned. We're going to have a star-filled broadcast, I would say. So we're going to be covering every game live, and I don't think it's been announced publicly with whom yet, but I promise you, you will not be disappointed. We have a real incredible lineup. I'm very excited myself to tune in. It will, of course, feature Jan, but we'll have others as well. So yeah, that's gonna be a lot of fun. All right, so my opponent has played this way. So now, at some point, I'm gonna take and maybe play knight c5, which might be a little awkward. I'll probably do it now. His pawn on e4, you know, I have. So he takes with the bishop. I think with the bishop is reasonable just because that pawn was a little bit weak. But of course, I'm kind of happy to see that trade. I'm going to play queen b6. He can try knight b3. Then I was thinking I'll just play bishop e6. Takes on d6. I can play rook d8, and some bishop takes b3. Black probably is better. Like the problem is that the dark squares, right? Like once that bishop is gone, and if the pawn were on if the g4 pawn were on g3, it would be kind of a different story. But with the pawn there, you know, I think like all these positions when it opens up, the dark squares are a little bit weak. So it's nothing like it's not a disaster by any means for him, but it's more pleasant. So he goes knight d4. I probably cannot take here because of rook fb1. So I'm just gonna retreat, I guess. I'd love to be able to play like some knight takes g4, but it just doesn't work at all. Well, it doesn't work. So I think I'll just retreat bishop d7. Also in blitz games you can't take forever. If he goes knight b3, my idea was to actually play rook d8. So this way he kind of wasted a tempo. And so now he takes, and I suppose I can just take on g4 and play that endgame. If he goes queen c5, I don't know if I have something better, because bishop e6, queen c5 is not that hot. So I will play this way. This guy has played very well for a player with a rating of 600. He's giving me a good game. I think black has a pleasant endgame here. Mostly, again, it's these dark squares, but it's not been an easy game. So now I have plans like knight h5 to f4, especially on this move. Knight h5, f4 makes a lot of sense. It's not, e5 is probably a mistake. That pawn is going to be a weakness. So, all right. So now, probably take it with the bishop. Take the pawn with the bishop. Could take it with the rook. Looks more natural to take with the bishop. And I got to watch for forks, but I'll probably just play king g7 soon. Now I like playing knight f4. These weaknesses here, and now I can win a second pawn by playing knight takes h3 or bishop takes h3. I guess I'll well, he's going to take the pawn on a5, but I decided that was an okay trade for me. And so now my goal might just be to start I'll start by king g7 just so I don't get myself and now at some point I have to start pushing my pawns. Maybe. All right, I'll just push and not talk too much so I don't lose on time. A6, I'll just take it, and my pawn should be stronger, obviously. And the thing is that the bishops are also going to have an impact on this position. The position is wide open. So now I probably want to play like bishop to g4, bishop to f3, and yeah. So, but again, it's still a tough game from someone with a lower rating, who is, however, someone just pointed out in the chat that he is maybe a little bit of a ringer because his bullet rating is much higher. So now he's going to lose something after I play rook d1, and then I've got h2. So, all right. So I managed to. Well, I do have to somehow checkmate him, which I will hopefully be able to do. All right, but a good game, and yes, he is over 2100 in over 2100 in. All right, I have someone here shelling forward over 2900, challenging me in a 3-minute game. I will accept that one. So almost as high rated as me. FIDE Master. It looks like he's from England. So let's see what we can do in this game. I like to play this a6 move in blitz games. It's not necessarily incredibly good, but it's playable. Now this queen c7, it's actually reasonable to sacrifice this pawn for white. You get some compensation. If you do not, however, sacrifice it, then I kind of like the way this looks for black. It's nothing special, but white is of course totally okay. But I think black is also fine. The queen is a little bit awkward on but still just a regular sort of Maroczy style position. I have to be careful on how I end up playing b6, because he sometimes has some f4 ideas. So here, let's see. So if I play b6, f4, what is that? Knight g6, knight c6. Maybe it's a little bit annoying, so I'll play bishop f8 first. I don't really mind. So b6, f4. I think now that's actually okay. I can just play knight g6 on f4. Alright, and so now I get my bishop to b7. This should be a fairly normal position. I always have to watch for these knight d5 ideas with the rook. And so here, so now I think this is a reasonable position for me. I'm rook d8 or rook c8. I'll play rook d8, and then in some cases I'm probably just you like to get your queen off of that file for many reasons. And so now the question is, how do we both sort of improve our positions? These positions, you can end up sort of not having too much to do for either side. Now I may have the idea to play b5, so he may want to play a4. And then it's interesting. I mean, d5. The problem is that he always has e5, and it seems to keep things together for him. I can consider things like h5, h4, but who knows if that's gonna be that amazing for me. But b5, I'm happy to get in b5 because now. So now, first of all, now I can play b4, and then once his knight gets to kind of be offside here, now d5 does look fairly reasonable. Still is a tough position. I could just play something like rook c8 and wait, which I'm actually, well, no, rook c8 he has something there. All right, I will play d5. Oh, actually, completely missed bishop takes f6. Well, that was not a brilliant. d5 was actually kind of ridiculous. I totally missed that he was threatening to take on f6. So now I cannot imagine that this is going to be a great position for me, frankly. But I went for it, so it is what it is. I think I'll try to take this way so that I'm hoping that somehow I can survive this. But this was definitely very poorly played by me. I think I'll play something like queen c8, try to play queen c2. So rook d5, queen c2 is a little annoying. So he goes there, which is what I kind of expected. I'll play rook e4. I may have ideas now with like bishop d6 and some ideas of sacrificing on f4. At least my rook is well placed, and I don't see an immediate way for him to win the pawn. So I'll play bishop d6. Now I don't know if knight f4 is a real threat, but it's at least optically a little bit annoying. And I'm kind of happy to sacrifice this pawn if I can get my pieces all active. I also might consider h5, h4. All right, so this move I thought about. I was going to go back. Now, if he does take on d5, so I have a few options here, but knight f4 looks actually quite tempting. I also have ideas like queen, or just, this is a tricky position. I'm just going to play this move to kind of keep the threats in. All right, so he goes there. All right, now maybe I should have done it. I don't know why I kind of chickened out there, because now it's not entirely clear how I'm going to create threats. But this move I don't mind. Maybe queen g4. All right, we have to do something, right? All right, this move, I'll play knight e2. I seem to have threats here. All right, so now I'm actually winning. I actually can checkmate with, well, so I managed. I was going to go for the pretty checkmate. Well, not the easiest game, but thank you, good game. All right. Well, that was tough. I actually have a lot of high-rated challenges here, and I'm going to accept some of them, but I'll start with Chess Cadet, who's been challenging me for a while. All right. We'll play the Slav. So in these positions, at some point, black will take on c4. So I'll do it now. I mean, there's sort of, he can play knight e5 here, get the pawn back. So if he plays like this, then he's not going for the pawn back. He's just going for compensation, and that's reasonable also. I like trying to trade this light squared bishop because it just never seems to be that great of a piece. and I think I'll play knight d7. Now I would like to play e7, e5, you know, if allowed. So he takes. Now it's not clear if I will be able to. Although maybe I still can. This gives me space back in exchange for it's possible he's going to win his pawn. I can maybe take and play knight b. Take knight b6. Then he can play bishop b6. I'll just play b5. We'll try to play aggressively, keep the pawn. Not entirely sure how to assess any of this. I think I'm okay here. I don't know why I gave the a7 pawn, but okay, he didn't take it. So now he might be able to win his pawn back, but I think the position is sort of okay for black, because positionally I'm actually in pretty decent shape. Of course he's got to pass d pawn, but it's not clear if that pawn is going to be strong or weak. I would consider now playing maybe e4. Well, I gotta watch for bishop f4. Then what if I play instead knight b6? Knight b6 threatens. I'll go knight b6. I may sometimes threaten to take on d5. I may sometimes play with d4, and I may also play with e4. So there's a few ideas. I still think white probably has some play for the pawn here, but maybe bishop g5 is a good move. I don't know. Bishop g. So he takes. All right. So this pawn, I thought I would just take here. Although he can actually take on c4. And his position is okay. So that was not ideal, because after he takes on c4, he's got this queen f7 idea in some cases. But he does this, which now I'm happy to see at least. I get to take his bishop. And now, if I could just defend this c4 pawn, I'm in pretty decent shape. And I just may go queen c8 to defend it. I'm still not, still not winning here. He's got some play on the f file. My king is a little unsafe, but it's a game. So now this move makes sense. He's threatening knight e7, so I got to watch out for that. Tricky position. I can maybe play queen c5. He just goes rook c7. That's annoying too. I sort of still don't love my position, actually. I'm just going to make a move that, I don't like at all, but I don't see what to do, and I'm running out of time, so just got to make a move. I think he's better now. He's got rook f7 with ideas of rook a7 sometimes, so his position looks to be better. So this move. Alright, well that makes some sense too, but alright, so now he lets me, though. I've defended, so now I can take on c7, and at least, this is better than what I had before. So that was not the most precise for him. His position is still fine, but definitely was not the most precise. So now he's trying to get this pawn back in that way. I can probably play. I'll play here, and then bishop h6. Well, actually, I'll just start with f5. I mean, I think now I have chances to play for a win, but because his king should be a little bit weaker than mine, but it's still just a tough position, tough game ahead, sort of. Well, g4 maybe is not good, because now I get f4, f3. Now this position is probably not going to be so good for him. So he's got to play there, maybe rook b8. Now it's just quite unpleasant because the everything's sort of potentially a target. Oh, this was a stupid move. Queen b4 was dumb. He plays rook c4. I got to go back to e7. Okay, so this move, he went there. I have not played this well at all, actually. Not very happy with my own play. May have ideas of queen g3 here. I'll start with some checks. I can actually do everything with check here, which is kind of nice. Well, tough game. I managed somehow, but these have all been tough games. All right, let's keep going. I'm gonna play a 5-minute game here because I'm just tired of these. The 3-minute talking in the 3-minute ones is a little. Thank you. That was a tough game. All right, so now I'm playing Olaf. I'm gonna play e4. I said I would play e4, and then I haven't really done it. Thank you, Chess Cadet. That was a tough game. You played very well. The Exchange Slav, I've seen a lot of games recently in this, and so I will give it a shot. Everyone's playing this h3 move, which, you know, it's part of this trend that in chess to kind of avoid the major theory. So the Caro-Kann has some lines that go, you know, really deep, but this is really just kind of about, you know, trying to play chess with your opponent, and so, you know, of course, there's not a huge edge here for white, but the line with h3, the idea is that there's a lot less it's a lot less forcing, I guess, than the other variations. At some point I'm going to play knight e5 here, like now, and it could be a little bit awkward for him to play this position. And white has a simple sort of, you know, attacking scheme here. Knight d7 he can't play, so he's got to go back to e8, which is a worse square. And now I suspect that I'm just better after I trade, just because of especially with the knight kind of misplaced on e8. Now I can bring my knight to d4. It's hard for him, you know, he'd love to be able to trade knights because the knight on d4 is a strong piece, but the knight on e8 to come to c6 is almost impossible. All right, so he makes this move. I'm curious about playing c4 because I'd love to keep that pawn kind of as a target. On the other hand, he can just play bishop b7 there, and that seems okay. So I think I'll just take and then play either, I guess, a3 to start. And then, you know, I should have a nice edge because my knight is getting to d4. I might be able to play b4, fixing the weakness. Hi, Nina. Yes, saying you've played me on the World Chess Network. That is sort of a blast from the past. The World Chess Network was a website that existed, I guess, in the very early 2000s. By the way, can I play bishop h7 here? Bishop h7 with knight g5 and queen h5. It's awfully tempting to play. It would be even more tempting if I had a rook in the game. But wow, it looks like it's got to be played. So I'm gonna play it. You know, of course, if I end up losing, you got to make sacrifices in Blitz sometimes just to keep it fun. So if I lose, I'm blaming you guys for having me play fun moves. But I think, all right. So of course, like the most obvious, king h7, knight g5, king g8, queen h5 looks like that's just toast. So he's got to play king g6. So now after king g6. The standard move in these positions is queen g4, and that's probably what I'll do here. And then on f5, queen h4, I think makes sense. The other thing is I could try to play h4, which is also interesting with the idea to play just like queen d3, but I'm going to go for this one. It's not. I'm not totally convinced that my sacrifice was correct, by the way. So now I'm not threatening queen h. Well, not threatening queen h7 in most cases, but my idea is probably simply to go like, I don't know. I'd love to play f4, but I can't. All right. So he returns the piece. I think I got to take it. And now I would assume that if I'm not down a piece, well, king takes f6 is just bad. Now I can play either. I can play, well, knight e6 is probably the most accurate, and now it's just losing. But he, I don't know. I'm curious what would have happened if he made a move that kind of forced me, to do something. All right, good game, Olaf. Let's see who we have here. I'm gonna play. Let's see, Kasparov fan. So a Kasparov fan. Maybe he plays a Najdorf. We will see. Or maybe I'll play the Najdorf against a Kasparov fan. Umut Atakba says that he's been challenging me for a while. Sure, let me see if I can find your challenge after this game, and I will accept it. So hang around, and I'm probably going to play for another half hour or so, just so you know. It's about 3 o'clock in South Florida here. All right, so let's see here. I'll just develop my pieces in the most primitive of ways. On h3, I like to go back to e6. I think at some point he can play d4 and change the pawn structure a little bit. In fact, queen d7 maybe is dumb, because that might force me to... I can run into a d4 takes on e5, and if I take with a piece, then he may have f4, f5, so I have to watch out for that. It's always sort of a question how you play these positions. I think I'm going to recycle the bishop already, just to not make it as easy for him to play d4. I may have h5, h4, I may have a5, a4, you know, but if he keeps the center closed like this, then I think I'll just centralize my pieces. He can try to play f4, but that, you know, a lot of things are getting open, so, you know, it has sort of complicated implications. All right, so he does do it. That's a brave move. I think I take on e4. Then, depending on how he takes, you know, I may take on f4 or not. Well, if he plays pawn takes e4, then I probably should move the bishop like back to c5, for example. If I take on f4, he takes on f6. I don't know if that's a good trade for him or a bad trade. Taking on e4, I have to take, so that makes at least my one decision easy. And I probably have to take on f4, but so I could play f5, but then he takes on c6, queen takes e6, pawn takes e5. He's up a pawn, and that doesn't seem entirely clear. So I probably take this. He's played fine here. You know, I think his position is okay. He can play knight takes f4. I'll probably play bishop e5 to get rid of, well, bishop e5, yes. Bishop e5 he can actually take on c6, so that's annoying. Yeah, he's played quite well. So I may, what do I do? I kind of need to trade his bishop on b2, but I can't do it with bishop e5, so he might be a little bit better here because of that. I think I'll just play f6, even though that looks a little bit scary with some, you know, looks like I could get myself pinned. So I will have to watch out for that, everybody. Make sure I don't lose my queen. All right, he goes there. That's a good move, actually. Yeah, I've played this. I've kind of botched this up completely, actually. How do I survive this position? Not well played by me at all, this game. So g6, obviously he's going to take on g6, and that looks really dangerous, but I think I kind of have to go for it. Yeah, I don't see an alternative, so this is probably just losing for me, to be honest. But I got to try to fight. So now he can do some kind of capture on f6. Okay, so he's going for the material. I'm actually happy to see this, because I was frankly worried that I was just going to get checkmated, while here it doesn't look like a, you know, even a close to an immediate checkmate. He's got pawns, but at least I can sort of fight. I mean, it's certainly, I mean, I'm pretty sure this is just losing for me, but you know, with pieces you never really know. But he's played very well. So now, all right, what do I do? I'd like to keep a bind on these pawns, so I think I'll play c5. He's gonna maybe want to put a piece on d5 though, so maybe I should have done something else, but I don't know what I could have done though. Alright, so now I gotta bring this knight in the game, right? I really am not too worried about the pawns here. I'm just trying to keep chances somehow. Of course, he can take on b7. You know, he's just winning, I think, here. But now I may have. So if I go bishop e5, he's got to check. I guess that's his idea. And he also wants to maybe take on e6. So an interesting little sequence. Still think I'm going to try this. So if he takes bishop d5, I'll go king f7, and I'll try to take this pawn, and then I'll just, we'll trade, and maybe I'll try to take a pawn on d3, and maybe it's not so clear. Still is probably winning. This has been a very bad game for me. He's playing with Kasparov-like precision. I'm kind of happy with bishop takes b7, because I think now, well, it could get a little bit murkier, and anything murky here is better than it was. Now I guess I'll take on d3. With bishop d5, I can play bishop takes and rook e2, and then maybe take on g3, and again, then it gets murky. I have maybe ideas with knight e1 here to at least, like, cause some confusion. I think maybe the last few moves were not Kasparov-like precision, because now he's still doing well, but it's less sort of obvious what the follow-up is. Bishop e4 is maybe a move, and then I probably just go back to e5, because knight e1 doesn't look so good there. Just knight e1, just king h2, and I don't quite know what's happening there, but it's not good for me. Alright, so this move. So now I've got to move my knight, I guess, to I guess I go back to e5. Again, I think his position is still excellent, but it's not. He hasn't quite found the most efficient way to convert, and so I have some chances to survive, especially with a clock situation, maybe. Alright, so he decides to keep the bishop. I'm just going to start moving a little faster here, since that's my main advantage in this position, is the clock. And yes, I'm only able to accept challenges from premium members. So if you are not a premium member, I recommend that you do become a premium member. It is a pretty it's a pretty good deal if you ask me, and not only because you get to play me, but also for a number of other reasons. All right, so he's actually managed to play this quite well. So now I got to try to win this pawn, because otherwise my chances will evaporate very quickly. Rook d1 is a good move. Then I got to go here. So he's going to win my a pawn too, which is annoying, leaving me with very limited pawns, of course. All right, well. Yeah, he's just winning here. My only chance is the flag. I'm going to try to come to the defense of my pieces. Of course, of course, completely losing here, but he has no time. So, well, again, a very very unfortunate loss. I somehow managed to remain unscathed, but barely. All right, let's see. So I said I would accept. All right, I found Umut Atakba, who is very high rated and has been challenging me for a little while. So here we go, as promised. 2900 opponent. We'll play the Queen's Gambit accepted in this game. I used to play this when I was a kid. I'm not sure I remember much of anything, but we will see. You know, the pawn structure in the center kind of gets simplified, and white, you know, a lot of times now they take on c5. A lot of the lines that are popular today were not that popular when I was younger. He is taking a little bit of time here. But again, almost every move imaginable is totally possible. Queen e2 is certainly one of the moves. Now b5, bishop b3, bishop b7. And, you know, again, there's a sort of a lot of theory here. These knight c3 variations are actually sort of the old lines. Certainly totally playable for white. Now d5, c4, he takes on e6, I take back, and they get complicated. I used to know what I was doing in these. I don't anymore. But essentially, we get a similar structure. There's very similar structures in the Moran also, the Moran variation, and I mean, it's they're just double-edged positions. So bishop c2, bishop d6, and then I do remember this sort of vaguely, but there's a lot that can happen from here. Now I think so I gotta watch out for some tricks here with like e5, but I think it's not a threat yet, so I think I can play castles. So if rook d6, queen d6, e5, I do have a move there, which is bishop takes f3, and I am okay. So he plays bishop g5. Now I'm considering either knight e5, which looks like a reasonable move to me. Yeah, I'll play knight e5. I also was considering maybe some bishop f4 or something like that, but knight e5 seems to make sense. You know, yeah, so knight d4, and now I gotta watch for some knight takes b5 ideas. And of course my pawn on e6. So I gotta be a little bit careful. It's possible that I made a mistake. Let's see. He also has ideas with f4 coming now. So maybe I didn't play this in the most accurate way. Let's see. Still is very complicated though. I have ideas like knight e to g4 maybe. Where I'm threatening a whole bunch of things, although none of them are totally clear. Complicated position. Well, I'm taking way too long. So queen e7. Queen e7 is really the move. Well, it's not really the move I want to play because my queen is nice on c7, but it's the move that looks the safest. But I was wondering about you know, issues with f4, which gets really messy. But I think I'm actually okay there. We'll see. This was my idea. Now if e5, actually e5 might still be good for him. Yeah, d5 is still good for him. So I didn't play this right at all. I think I got to try something like this. Now I'm going to kind of be playing for cheapos here. You know, I have ideas like knight h3. knight h3 is actually kind of a threat, I think. Well, maybe it's not even, because his queen can, well, I've actually queen g5, queen e3, and that's mate. So that's cute. I'm threatening knight h3, pawn takes, queen g5, queen g4, queen e3 with mate. However, of course, he's got moves that he can make. And so I just have 2 pawns for a piece, but they're not particularly good pawns. So this is not a good position, of course, for me. Question is just sort of how to convert for him. Alright, so he makes this move. Now that really is a provocative move, but it may just be, he may have calculated it well. It's very tempting to play, I think I have to play knight h3. He may have a win though here. It may just be winning for him. But, you know, I'm threatening queen g3 with mate. Queen h2 is not good because of queen g5. He can play a check on e6, which of course I'll play king e8. He can go to queen g4 does queen f2 mate, but he may have something simple like, you know, knight e4 somewhere, and that may win. Plays bishop e4. Probably got to try this check here. I'm sure this is lost for me, by the way. I'm just trying to keep it interesting. Idea is kind of to play rook, queen g2, queen e3, and rook f2. But of course, at this point, it's just kind of garbage. He has so many pieces for the queen. But you know, at least when there's no, when I have queen against something, I feel like you always have sort of a fighting chance. Alright, so this move, now my goal was to play e5, which I'll play fast. If I can win one piece back, I've got a fighting chance. I may have some sort of bishop f3. If he moves the knight, then maybe bishop f3 with the idea queen f2 takes and then take on d1. I'm liking my chances a little bit more after his last move. I think queen g2 was much better, giving the queen up. Now at least I get to make some moves that are annoying, if nothing else. But I think this actually might be okay for me at this point. Queen d2, I have maybe very strong rook d8. He can't take because of a mate. Alright, so this move. So now he's already almost giving material back. Giving a little bit of material back. It's not too much material. I guess this is a good move. This is a good move. Although maybe I can just play queen to g6. Actually, queen g6, it's a good square. What does he do there? I don't know. We'll play queen g6. Alright, so big success. I'm winning a queen for a bishop on this move anyway. And so now he only has 3 pieces for a queen. However, I have pawns. So now I should actually be doing very well. Although it's still it's still kind of tricky to win a position like this. I'd love to trade one pair of rooks, but it's not so easy. I'm going to start by going here. I don't know if I care about this pawn. Why did I play my rook there, actually? That was kind of silly. I'm going to go over here. Sort of, I got to create counter chances here. h5. He may still be winning for all I know in this position. But now it's just kind of, oh, did I just get, oh my goodness. He just found a beautiful trick, although it's still very messy. I have the rook coming to d2 and taking on b2, and actually I think I might be winning, but this has been a crazy game, really crazy game. I think I'm finally winning. few ways to do it here, but I've decided to take pawns as much as possible. All right, so tough game. But thank you, thank you, Umut Atakba. You gave me a run for my money, to be sure. All right, we're going to continue here. I have, let's see, Demandred 1983 is challenging me. I'm playing a lot of high-rated opponents today. It has not been an easy by any stretch of the imagination. All right, he's playing the modern, which is an interesting opening. The line with f4 is generally, well, at least when I used to play chess, was considered the most sort of aggressive attempt at handling it from the white side. So he goes for a system. He goes for like the what do you call this? Not the hippo, something like that. Maybe it is called the hippo. I'm going to try to play f5 here. I don't really know the I don't really know the move orders or anything like that, but it seems hard to resist playing this way. He can try to take pawns if he wants, but this looks kind of dangerous for black. Actually, I don't love this g takes f5. It looks really risky. I feel like for a pawn, I'm very happy to be down a pawn in this position. All right, so now how to play. The check on f7 is tempting, but maybe not winning. I mean, f6 is a f6 actually looks strongest to me right now, just because of simple sort of tactical issues. Although does he have? Well, knight e5 I can just take on e7. So I think I'll play f6. Fe, queen f7 was probably good. King d7, maybe rook e1 or I don't know, bishop c4, bishop b5. There were a lot of moves there, but this seems to be cleaner. Now the idea is if he goes knight d5, I take on d5, and then bishop b5. Alfilet Encantador is asking, what about Ayelen? So Ayelen was sick. Apparently she has been a little bit sick, had some kind of a cold for the last several days, and she was hoping to be all better by today. I'm wondering whether to play bishop b5 first, by the way. I guess I'll play bishop b5 first. And she was not feeling that well. She sent a picture where she was lying in bed uncomfortable. So unless this is a Ferris Bueller-like moment, but I have no reason to believe that it is a Ferris Bueller-like moment, I'm going to assume that it's true. And hopefully she'll be back, and in a few days we can do the same thing in her presence. I do think that I talk a lot, but it's probably nice to hear another voice sometimes as well. So I like my position here. I think this is not going to be a success for the modern. I guess I will just take. Now a few pieces are hanging. It's hard for black not to lose two pieces. He might be able to not lose two pieces, but anyway, the position is going to be lost here. All right, good game, Demandred. All right, we have time for a couple more here, at least. I may go a little beyond the. Let's find someone slightly less high-rated, just because we've had so many. We have Onam here, who's been challenging me for a while. A 3-minute plus 2-second increment game. Alright, we'll play e4. I said at the beginning of the stream that I would continue to play e4. And so here we go. I hope that our friend Onam is still here. I'm going to give him a few seconds here to make a move and allow me to stretch. I go to CrossFit. I went this morning. I have little kids, so I go usually very early in the morning. It's a tough workout. I'm sore all the time. All right, our friend is not here. I'm going to abort this just so people don't watch me stretch for too long. A little bit is okay, but too long is probably not. So we're going to play knight c3 then. Knight c3, which is a someone who had actually messaged me a couple times in the past. In particular when I had some sound issues, so I'm glad to be playing him. All right, e4, e5. Maybe we'll play the Ruy Lopez. I don't play it on either side as well as Magnus does, but I will do what I can. Probably one of the richest chess openings, or most, with a lot of history, of course. b5 and castles threatens to play the Marshall Gambit. I'm not going to let him play the direct Marshall Gambit. h3 sort of takes care of that. And I guess I'll play with d3, which is the safer sort of setup. So he plays a gambit anyway. This one, I don't actually remember the theory. I know there is some theory, but generally speaking, white is a little bit better positioned in this version. Yeah, so here he plays this way. So this, I have seen this, but I don't remember anything. I think I gotta try to trade pieces, but he's got some. All right, we'll play this. Of course, black always has some sort of compensation for a pawn, in any of these variations. I'm just kind of, generally I'm happy if I can avoid getting mated, keep a pawn up, and even if it's an endgame that's supposed to be drawn, generally I feel like white can press, and that's what I'm personally happy to get against the Marshall these days. And this is a hybrid Marshall, not the regular Marshall. So knight b4, interesting. So he wants to keep these knights on the board, and it's a little bit awkward for me to play the position. Now that said, it's going to be tempting at some point to do some capture on f7. I may start with just a simple development move here, bishop e3. All right, so he goes here. Tempted to take this knight. Yeah, I will take this knight. I feel like that's a positive trade for me. Now I'm still always looking at these knight f7 moves. Rook takes, but I don't really see any obvious follow-up there, so I'm just gonna keep the material more straightforward. He probably will stick something on d5 here to eventually, and I'll probably play, at some point I might consider a3. Alright, so here, now I like a3 or a4. And I still have this knight f7, take. I can actually go queen h5. It's close to being good, but I just don't see it as that great, so. Alright. So now my bishop is safe, and maybe I can play just queen d2. I'm not sure that I'm playing this in the very best of ways. Well, most likely I'm not playing in the very best of ways, right? I mean, it is a blitz game. I'm just doing what I can. Hopefully I don't hang pieces. So now on bishop g5 I can play f4. On f4 I think I just go back. I mean, this has probably helped him, but I'm not too sure because it's also just a weakness. I don't really mind this exchange sacrifice in this particular case. I feel like I should be able to defend this. I'll probably start with knight g3. He's pinned, his king is pinned, so that forces him to kind of waste a little bit of time. And then maybe I can play queen e2. Of course, if knight f4, I have queen e7. I think that's okay for me. Got to make sure I don't get myself checkmated. And on this, okay, so now there's no immediate threat. I think I'm just going to play king h2. It's actually not totally trivial, this position for me. But I think I'm still okay. I got to start moving. I'm slow sometimes. Maybe knight g6 here. I mean, I don't think I'm going to get checkmated that fast. So So I think I have a little, you know, let's see. I do have to be careful though, because it could happen. He's gonna take an f3 now. Yeah, I certainly have not played this well. Take this pawn. Now he moves his bishop. I'm gonna have to defend somehow. Yeah, this has not been glorious play by me. Where do I go with this queen? Not a lot of good squares, to be sure. Guess I'll take his pawn, but yeah, I'm taking like huge risks here. Probably losing at this point. Okay, well he let me trade queens, where now I might be okay. Now I'm just making moves fast so that I don't lose on time. My position somehow is winning again. Well, really tough game. He played very well. Good game on knight c3. I was definitely on the ropes there. All right, I have. I'm gonna play one more. Let's see who's the highest rated. I have Nico Wild here, 2900. A 3-minute game. That should be a good one to finish today's Banter Blitz. And we're gonna play. Let's play the King's Indian. So this is a same-ish variation. I don't really remember any of this stuff, so I just gotta hope I'm not making moves that are too bad here. I don't remember this knight c1 move exactly, though I'm sure it's totally possible. This actually seems okay to me. I feel like he's wasted a lot of time with his knight, but what do I know? Now b4. So my queen is obviously not in a good spot on a5 anymore, so I'll move it. I mean, it seems okay for him, but it just strikes me as a little bit odd. Play knight e5. He's playing very fast too. I'll play h5. h5 is a sort of normal move in these positions. Alright, so now I can play maybe knight h7. Alright, so what is this position like? Kind of like the idea of playing g5, knight g6, but it's probably dubious. It's probably dubious, so I will play it. So this is sort of about the control of dark squares, but it may not be that good of a plan. Let's see. Probably was not actually that good of a plan. I'll play bishop f8 first, but because I think my pawn on there was going to be a little bit weak. All right, I'll play h4 to at least remove one of the targets. And maybe now knight f4. Who knows? I don't know. I don't think this is accurate for me, but it's just kind of interesting. Maybe it's okay actually. So this now at least my bishop becomes good again. Not the c8 bishop, mind you, the other bishop. And I'm going to try to play knight f8, knight g6, because my knight on h7 is a bit of a dud. So the bishop gets back to g6, coming to e5. Maybe this isn't all that bad for me at this point now, actually. I kind of want to play f5 somewhere, but I can't do it yet. So I just got to make some moves. Didn't love letting him at some point do some kind of exchange sacrifice. I think I can trade this knight one pair. He's played so fast, though. My goodness. This guy's like a rocket. I'm just going to go for it because wow, he's just so fast. He's better here, I guess, but oh, I just hung a piece. Alright, well this guy is just too fast for me. Good game, and this is a tough way to end the stream, but that's okay. Thank you very much, guys. I'm going to resign here. And I hope everyone has a great night, and yeah, we'll see you again. We'll see you again very soon. Thank you for tuning in. Have a wonderful evening.